Welcome to the Ravensvale Coven. The Coven features short, independent stories with themes ranging from dark horror and fantasy to any other disturbing fiction. The Coven contains stories written outside the ongoing storyline of the Ravensvale universe. The stories are submitted by listeners, authors, and storytellers and are carefully curated by the staff of Ravensvale. To learn about our guidelines for submitting your story for consideration, go to www.ravensvale.com and click on the Submission tab on the menu bar.
The Ravensvale Coven is part of our dark fantasy horror anthology podcast and may contain explicit language or thematic elements not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The art of storytelling comes in many different forms. From urban legends to lyrical rap, storytelling seems to be essential to the human experience. At 4 years old, our next storyteller wrote, directed, and starred in her first film entitled Princess Asleep. Since then, she has been a poet, writer, and storyteller of many colors. She is the author of the book, The Habit of Breaking Routines. Tonight, she brings us a collection of poems collectively entitled Creepsake. Put your hands together for R.F. Greer.
Okay, this is Creepsakes. This is part 1. Haunt. There is always a hesitation, a delay, from the flip of a switch and the light. Night terrors. My mind finds faces in the darkness, trying to make sense of what my eyes cannot see. Projections of my terrors compiled of my memories, paralyzed as they stare, frozen when they touch me. My limbs are petrified as they slink away and watch me. A man with ink eyes. Ink pooled in his irises, slipping down his snow-cleaf cheekbones. Meet him halfway between the brows, hollowed, though spoken out loud. His reply to a chiding demon, perched atop Held's bones, bewildered, dismayed, fastening his own amber eyes upon the hollowed man. For his fingertips, too, were stained. Ink, as it crept and spread into wrinkled crevices, nail to knuckle, every finger, every hand. Where find such a curse? Chiding demon. From his father, hollowed man. Blue light. Alone at home in the dark, waiting for a film to start, I felt something move around me. A flickered flare in a sapphire snare, a gentle spirit found me. I know that can't happen, and ghouls, they aren't real, but I swear when I saw that blue light, I also felt you there. Though at first I felt afraid, uncertain of the flame's intentions, suddenly I recognized. When that blue light caught my eye, I remembered exactly what it was like to have you in the room again. And when that blue light cast a shadow, I swear I saw your silhouette. That blue light flickered, and for a moment I thought I had you back from the dead. I know that can't happen, and ghouls, they aren't real, but I swear when I saw that blue light, I also felt you there. This is Creepsakes, Part 2. Is that better? Okay. Thank you, brother. The field. Humans think we are mindless. However, to observe in silence requires a patience mankind will never know. As a sunflower, whose main and only goal is to face the sun, I stand witness to all things around me, many of which are my siblings, as we turn to face our master, making the lonesome pursuit in a comforting state of togetherness. There was only once in my years that I turned my face from the great star, a time when I stood witness without patience or peace. They do not understand themselves as a young and ever-changing species, and as such, humans are always so sure of their choices. The more ancient types look on in great disappointment, for it was humans that were chosen to rule Great Earth, and there was nothing another species could do to stop them. Slowly, it became the way of things. Though us flowers understand ourselves, our pursuit, and our purpose as humans crave, it is in their pursuit of purpose that they kill needlessly and take whatever they believe to be theirs. Not all humans are as impatient and mindless as others. One, in particular, was a dear friend of the field. Her name carried across our petals each time her mother called for her to return home. Helena! As she rushed through our stems and leaves, small and careful enough not to knock any of us down, we all laughed and grew to love her. Through the years, Helena learned the patterns of our stems so that even as she grew, only our leaves could feel her pass. Oh, how I adored her. As she liked to sit and read by the tree where I stand, I would feel comfortable in her brightness, which felt to me like a second sun warming my lowest leaves. She was a great kindness the field had never known. We admired her as she admired us, reaching gently for our petals and turning her face toward our sun. The field felt community in our mutual pursuit of the great star. Helena felt community in our mutual pursuit of warmth. It was her saddest afternoons that she glowed warmest, contradictory as it may seem. She made herself warm from the inside out with a deep and melancholy song, one that began as a gentle crooning until growing into a bellow. Humming through the stems and stalks of each flower, our petals fanning to full potential in our silent harmony. She found her tune in the wind, picked up a note and drew a song from her lips, enchanting us. Helena would only stop when her fingertips were dug into the soil and she could feel our reply, until the tears that once wet her face dried with sunlight. The field noticed a long pause in Helena's visits. I waited in my stance, following the sun through the sky until nightfall in hopes that the next day would bring Helena with the light. Then she returned with another. He who made our leaves curl inward, our petals fall before their time, his name coiled around our roots as he stepped on them. Ramsey. Helena, always cautioning with her tone. A stiff and cool breeze made our field of heads bow slightly. You mean the world to me, Helena. You know that. I won't ever hurt you. Don't think me a fool for my fairness, Ramsey. You may not have the intention of hurting me, but you likely will. Helena, he lilted. My mother raised me to know better. I will wait, and we shouldn't speak any more of it, you understand? All right, Helena, I understand. You intend to make an honest man out of me, but you won't tell me when. Ramsey, I noted more caution than before. We're both too young to be thinking about that. I have to protect myself and my family. You're right, love, but I want you, only you. Then you won't mind the wait, love. Her laugh soothed the field and her Ramsey. But humans are hostile, passionate creatures, and her touch only soothed him for as long as it took him to want more. A change was felt in the field. All of us were afraid to turn our heads toward it. The night brought ravens with cold and black wings flickering over the stars in intermittent darkness. The wind picked up an unknown wetness Helena and her kind could not feel. One that came weeks before a perilous storm. She returned alone the following days, singing to us a long and gentle hum that never ended with her face dry of tears, only with the disappearance of the sun. The field harmonized with her still, our apprehension of the storm growing with her enveloping sadness. On a day turned gray by the clouds, we hung our heads in preparation for the storm. Helena rushed through our stalks, pushing us aside in a hurry only prescribed by fear, the well-known flea of prey from predator. The field bent our stalks to allow her to pass, leading her to our heart where the tree and I stand. Her Ramsey came cutting in another path, but he was wise to stop and listen for Helena's sharp and fearful breathing. He pushed us aside with no great effort, the soil charging with friction felt by the sky. Clouds began churning above us, Helena looking toward her fate as Ramsey hurled his dense body through ours. The tree stood full and tall, offering herself to Helena as protection, and Helena was quick to accept. The field trembled with the wind as Helena trembled. Ramsey burst through our borders and into the heart. He scanned the clearing for a moment, and we stared back. Helena held her breath. Opposite of Ramsey on the other side of the tree, he cut across the opening and re-entered our stalks in pursuit of her. The field sighed our relief as Helena released a breath. She stood up from the tree and turned her face toward the rain as it began to fall. A gust of wet wind brought Ramsey through our heart's borders once again. His eyes cut through our leaves at Helena's ceaseless heaving chest. Helena was still and silent when she noticed him. Our mighty stalks swayed to the will of the storm as he walked steadily toward her, eyeing her quivering body. The wind whipped through the field, snapping the spines of brittle flowers as Ramsey pushed her face into the bark of the tree. Helena looked at me, only into my face, for it was only mine that she could see. I love you, he groaned into her stiff neck. I love you, we cried in despair. Helena's warmth bled from her eyes as they stared into me. She saw me living then. She observed in silence, as we do. When he went still and brushed back his hair, he took her hand and led her back through the field. We'll be married then, he lamented. I won't abandon you like a lesser man, Helena. We'll be married nice and proper, just as you said. The field bent our bodies for her to walk through, untouched. We'll be married then, Helena repeated, monotone. When the air had dried up and our faces returned to our pursuit, Helena returned alone. She timed her steps over our encroaching roots without glancing at her feet. She walked with a dead, cold thing swinging at her side. The sharp edge glinted the great star back at us. Her face was distorted in its reflection, reddened and muddled as the earth on her bare feet. Wading into the heart of the field like a sprawling storm, I turned away from the sun to watch her return to the tree. Her palm going flat against the trunk of our tree, I waited. I waited with an impatience I had never known for her to look at me once more. Helena's hand trailed across the bark as she circled the tree to where she last stood. I waited for her to look at me. She leaned against the back of the tree, closing her eyes, raising the cold, dead thing to her neck. The crimson hot rain sprayed our stalks and leaves in a quickness that made the field wince. She looked at me then. She saw me living as I saw her not. It wasn't until I raised my head from her body that I knew all of us had turned our faces from the sun that day.
Raven's Veil Coven is a production of Small Raven Media. Audio engineering and sound design by Nick Devan at Nicky D Sound. Copyrighted 2023 by Small Raven Media. All rights reserved.